Welcome to the Prime Health Podcast with your host, Dr. Derek Barron. Dr. Barron interviews doctors, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity. The Prime Health Podcast explores breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. So sit back, listen in, and prepare to transform how you think about your path towards Prime Health with Dr. Barron and his special guest.
Hello, my name is Dr. Derek Barron, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Prime Health Podcast. We interview doctors, nurses, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity, and you're going to see today about mindset. We explore breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. Now, before we get into today's amazing guest, I want to just give you a quick note from our sponsor called Growth Solutions. It's your growth partner in business for busy health and wellness professionals. Now, we look to eliminate the hardest, the biggest, headaches that you have in business, whether it's lead generation, improving communication with your clients, practice operations and systems and frameworks, and especially integrating AI to take away some of that busy work off of your schedule. So Growth Solutions, we're not just a vendor, we are your growth partner. So if you've ever said this to yourself, I'm too busy to grow, too slow to scale, or too overwhelmed to fix it, we can help. Just drop the word growth below. We'll get back in touch with you, or feel free to reach out to me on any social media content that's out there. But here's the purpose in that you're here today, and that's for our amazing guest of our podcast today, and that's Dr. Jenna Ross. She is a certified mental performance consultant and licensed associate counselor with a doctorate in performance psychology. So don't get nervous. She can't analyze you here over the video, but this is going to be a great show for us today. She brings over a decade of experience helping individuals and organizations optimize their mindset, resilience, and overall well-being. A U.S. Army National Guard veteran with 13 years of service as a medic, drill sergeant, and training coordinator, Dr. Ross understands firsthand the demands of high-pressure environments. And thank you so much for your service. Her work blends evidence-based psychology with real-world tactical leadership experience, specializing in stress management, mental toughness, and motivation. Through her private practice called Renew Performance, she partners with athletes, executives, and tactical professionals to break through mental barriers and perform at their best. Dr. Ross is passionate about equipping people with tools to thrive in demanding roles, making her a sought-after voice in conversations on resilience, mental health, and human performance. Dr. Ross, welcome to the Prime Health Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction as well. That was great.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for your service. It's a commitment that people make to themselves and their family and our country. From myself and my family, I really do want to say thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
So at some point in time, we make decisions in our life that kind of lead us in a direction. Was there a moment in your life that said, you know what, I need to kind of go into mental coaching and or performance coaching?
Yeah, so I kind of came across the field of performance psychology when I was in the military and was at a training school that I was attending, and they had people from performance psychologists come and speak to us, and it opened my eyes to the whole realm of performance psychology, and I fell in love with it. And so I decided to start researching programs and whatnot to get my education in that, and found one, University of Western States, that I attended. And so it was in that experience in the military that I really kind of fell in love with this field.
Okay. So in the military, you're put in very high intense situations, I can only imagine, whether it's even in training, which they want to force you into that situation, or whether it's in maybe a combat zone or a situation like that. But how, if we look at it from, how has your military and your performance psychology background shaped the way you approach kind of the organizational challenges that you deal with your clients today?
Yeah, well, for me, it's allowed me to personally see stress from a different angle. As far as how you work past that stress, and understanding that we can really train our minds to be able to handle that stress and build up tolerance to it. And it's pretty incredible. The training that the military does is really, it's effective because it trains out that stress response that we normally have. So realizing that there's power in training your mind and going through, whatever it is that you need to overcome those barriers that might be there in the way. But yeah, being in that environment really, it really showed me that like a lot of things that I may have encountered out on the civilian side probably 20 years ago would have been a big deal. And now it's like, oh, like, okay, I have a solution. I can handle that. And so I want to be able to bring that to other people and help them gain the tools and ability to also handle stress in that same way.
Okay. So does your practice do one-on-one group? Like, how does that work? If I wanted help, you can do that. If you work with teams as well.
Yeah, so I do both. I do both one-on-one and right now, and we'll probably talk through this a little bit more, but I'm trying to make a more of a transition into teams and organizations and
Right.
more of the broader scope because I'm really finding that one-on-one, a lot of people have very common what I would call performance breakdowns, and they all kind of have similar themes to it. That it's allowed me to tailor those group trainings to what I've found one-on-one. So it's more relatable and effective when I'm bringing that one-on-one experience into that environment. So both to answer your question.
Okay, perfect. What's the age range of clients that you've worked with?
So I actually have worked with adolescents, so 12 years
Wow.
and up, athletes, all the way up to, I think my oldest client was about 70. He was a golfer, came to me because he wanted to improve his golf game. So it's a very broad range.
Okay. So if you are transitioning in a sense or looking to transition from that one-on-one into, organizational stuff, how do you think in the background that your military training helped you and the performance psychology that you've learned over time kind of shape the way you approach organizations and how you can help them with their performance?
Yeah, well, I think my background in the military, I'm very kind of became very comfortable in those group settings as far as being a drill sergeant and being a training coordinator. There was lots of opportunities for me to get that experience. And now it's just applying the knowledge that I have of performance psychology in a way that connects with those organizations. And so from the organizational standpoint, I think a lot of organizations are finding out that this is a need for them in order to improve, their employees' well-being and improve the overall culture and health of their organization. And so I love the fact that, they're open to that. And so I just am kind of, I guess, combining that military experience now with my education and my knowledge.
Okay. And when you have worked with individuals, you have realized that there is something there that you've picked up over time. Does that associate with what you call some of the frameworks you've developed called the appraisal gap?
Yeah, so that's a kind of a ongoing development that I've been working on as far as seeing when I'm doing workshops and trainings on stress management and how stress impacts us and understanding where stress even enters into the picture of things. And so I developed the appraisal gap model as a way of just assessing that and asking yourself two questions as far as how much does this matter and how much do I believe I can. So those are two pretty simple questions to ask, but give you great insight as to helping you reach your goals and helping you manage and mitigate some of those stress responses that you might have.
Yeah, those are they're simple but deep.
Yes.
Somebody has to really think about that because we are our own worst enemies so many times.
Yes.
And when you go through that appraisal gap that you take them through, again, it may work even easier when you're in a whole group setting because they work off one another. Would that be
Yeah.
true?
Yeah, definitely. Very simple but deep questions. And I think it's a good way to build that self-awareness, for those organizations and even on an individual level, just to practice self-awareness
Yeah.
as far as what we're experiencing and walking through and being able to gain the tools to manage it better. So
Yeah. Being a human is a tough job.
yeah.
Being in an organization is harder because you have to be around other humans. So to get yourself to a performance level
Mm-hmm.
is difficult. And I can see that's where, you coming into play really can help that with it. What types of, can you give us an example of what an organization is that you've worked with? You don't have to share the name, but
Yeah.
what the organization is like and what you've done to help that organization.
Yeah, I've worked with a police department. I've worked with some kind of leadership academies and brought in different content that's really been tailored to their organization. But ultimately, the goal has been to be able to give them tools for long term, and
Okay.
prevent some of the things that happen along the way in those careers where there's a lot of high stress and you see things like burnout and a
Mm.
lot of health issues and things that start to come up in careers like that. And so bringing in tools to help with that and really emphasizing the fact that there are things that can help them, right? Like you don't have to go into this high stress job unprepared.
Right.
And so those are, police department and those in the leadership academy, those are a couple, I would say, tactical populations I've worked with. I've worked with sports teams as well. Different topics they want me to come in and talk on: focus, confidence, mental toughness, resiliency, motivation. So it's all to really bolster them with the tools to be successful in those high stress, high performance roles.
Yeah. And that helps them personally, when they go through that, but then that helps them as the team and as the organization. I can only imagine as a police force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you really want to, I mean, when you think about it, in terms of prevention, right? You really want to prevent some of the things that happen later on, because that takes somebody, and this is like a kind of a military concept, but it takes them out of the fight, right? And they're no longer effective. So you really want to be able to say, hey, what do we need to help you be successful? Because that helps the organization as a whole. And, everyone's big on budgeting and money and all that stuff. So you're actually, making this investment up front, but you're saving on the back end with protecting people's health and well-being.
And Dr. Rawson, you're working with all of these people. I'm sure individuals builds up into the teams and organizations. Have you found patterns that you've recognized that whether it's police or whether it's fire or whether it's a school or a team, that you see these patterns that you recognize and you help them find solutions?
Yes. So there are always patterns. People as human, right? We have kind of the similar ways of doing things. One big one that has come up with one-on-one coaching as well as in teams and whatnot is an idea of perfection and this all or nothing thinking. And so it's very common, I think, among high performers to have that expectation of perfection. It's not a bad thing, but it can become what I would say is maladaptive perfectionism, to where it's actually hurting you and working against you rather than helping you. And so it's kind of like the oxymoron or the catch-22 of performance is the more that you try to force things to be a certain way, typically the performance starts to drop. So when you have that expectation of perfection, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and that pressure then equates to I have to perform, and how that changes the inner dialogue and the response for you is enough to make those differences in performance, to where you might see, if you're a baseball player, you might see errors. If you're in the business world, you might start to miss key details or struggle with emotional regulation. And so you kind of see that play out in different ways depending on the context. But I would boil it down to this kind of common theme of an expectation of perfection.
Perfection is the root of all evil. I don't know if that's the exact phrase, maybe out of the Bible that it comes from, but perfection is a tough thing for people to deal with.
Yeah.
How about dealing with male and female, do you have to approach them differently? I don't want to make this biased by any means, but
Yeah.
is there a way in which you approach dealing with them and their issues?
Yeah, I mean, females, just generally speaking, and I don't think it's a bias. I think it's kind of scientific fact. We're more emotional. And so when you look at dealing with males versus females, the emotional kind of language is typically greater when you work with females. There, you can understand it from an emotional perspective for them versus males. It that tends to not be there, and you can give them instructions, and it's pretty cut and dried as far as I'm going to go out and do that. Female, you give them instructions and it's like all this other stuff that comes with it. So you kind of have to be able to filter through that with them and help them understand where those emotions come into play, and what their role is in those situations.
And if you're doing that in a team setting or within an organization, I assume you have to find ways to get the blend from here and here to bring that closer so it makes them more cohesive to work with one another.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the same with really any audience you work with. You know, you're going to have differences in any audience, that you kind of have to be able to bridge those gaps between those levels of whether it's experience, knowledge, emotional awareness and regulation. Like everyone kind of comes in on different levels. So it's being able to relate what you're training to that audience in a way that they can pick it up. And a lot of times they, as a group, as a whole, they can help each other with it. And that's where a lot of the building and the bonding comes in too.
Okay. Yeah. So there's self-help and there's group help. We want our organization to go from here to here. And sometimes we need everybody to get along better to make it come into that position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's sometimes that might mean, you know, I've done situations where I've done meeting with the males separately, meeting with the females separately, in a sports context, just for, you know, clarity and effectiveness. But that doesn't always happen. And that's kind of in a perfect world. You don't always get the opportunity to be like, hey, let's train you separately. So, you know, you really want to be able to function in an all-inclusive way in those group settings.
Okay. So kind of as we're talking, something comes up kind of an odd perspective from a question. There's supposedly men don't think that they need help. Okay. I'm not saying they do or don't. There's that kind of pushback. Is there, in the work that you've done, is there misconceptions about working with peak performance coaches?
Absolutely. Yeah. Men, I agree with that they tend to be a little more, like when they make a decision, it's a decision. But leading up to that point is they have to get there, and they have to get to that point of being like, oh, I need this. I really am ready for this and open to this. Otherwise, it's just going to be resistance. And I hate to say it, but I think it has a lot to do with ego. And men kind of tend to deal with that ego a little bit more. And it's a little bit protective of like, hey, I don't want to appear weak. I don't want to appear like something is wrong with me. And, you know, all the stigma that goes with that. So that's probably the biggest kind of myth when it comes to performance and working with someone, is that there doesn't always have to be something wrong with you. It could just be that you want to improve overall and you want to be the best that you can be. It doesn't necessarily mean, you know, you're deficient in any sort of way. And so having, you know, worked with men that have, you know, they've come to me, it's typically by the point where they're seeing that breakdown, or they're seeing where things are starting to fall apart, that they're like, I need help. So it's unfortunate because that kind of reiterates that common myth. But the reality is you don't have to have anything wrong with you to work with a performance coach.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And it's better for them if they do it, and it's better for the team if you're in a team setting. We want everybody at peak performance levels along the way, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you get reports back from the organization saying that, hey, once we've done this as a team, we can see we work better, our numbers are better, we function better as an organization?
Oh, yeah. The feedback is typically pretty good. Rarely. I had maybe one in the past like 3.5 years I've been doing this. I had one instance where the situation kind of was I guess would say a change to what we originally planned. I came in and I did a workshop, and it was on communication and leadership. And we had the actual CEO owner show up, and it changed the whole dynamic.
Right.
That affected the workshop. And at the end of it, a couple things came up that were pretty negative, but I was able to kind of salvage the whole thing at the end of it and use it as a learning lesson for everyone that was involved. But that's rare. Rare for that to happen. And most of the time I've had, really great feedback as far as how it's helping people and the changes that they're able to make in their lives.
Love it. Have you noticed in your profession that there is a stronger demand for individuals and or businesses reaching out for your services?
Yeah, I definitely think the awareness of it is growing. The awareness that this is a field and an industry that is, it's not just for sports. It's applicable in as we've been talking, in the tactical environments, in the business environments, in the corporate environments. And so as the awareness is growing, I think the demand is starting to also rise. Many organizations I've come across are starting to actually have, starting to slot a position for somebody like myself because they're realizing like, hey, this is the ticket to us saving a bunch of money and being successful in the long term.
Right. Cool. And everybody is looking to save a penny, but as you said, long-term results are for paying today and not. So then when you bring in a new employee, they will be heightened by the rest of the team that's coming in. They have to raise their levels around it. So it is, cost effectiveness is important, but functional, perfectiveness is even more important, I think, in my opinion. So absolutely. I want to switch gears just a little bit, Dr. Ross, and kind of ask you just about you and your business. So where is your focus on your business right now and how you're trying to grow it?
Yeah, my focus is on kind of getting the word out there and doing more of the group setting, group workshops, seminars, and working at that level. I've been pretty focused on the one-on-one stuff up until about this year, and now really emphasizing I'd rather reach a broader scope of people in group settings because I'm doing work one-on-one, and I'm finding again those themes are coming up. And so if one person, and it's kind of like that, saying like if you're going to ask a question, more than likely somebody else also has that same question. So kind of same thing when it comes to performance. So that's where I've been putting my energy and my efforts is in organizing and being able to market that instead of just the one-on-one.
Cool. Love it. Are there any challenges that your company is going through right now?
Yeah, well, the biggest challenge is I find budgeting. People don't. It's kind of coming into the, this as a whole in this industry. A lot of companies are realizing this is a thing that can help them, but they haven't yet caught up to budgeting and financing for something like this. Okay. So that's one of the questions that always comes up, and it's always different with each organization, and navigating that's dependent upon their own situation. But that's a big challenge as the awareness grows.
Okay. We'll have that with any company, along the way. So we're not abnormal. We're all alike in that regards. Yeah. From the success of your business, what do you feel you attribute it to personally?
Personally, my own persistence and stubbornness in not giving up. Okay. And so being willing to go through the highs and the lows that come with being a business owner and entrepreneur, and navigating all the changes of the economy and all kinds of different things out there. So I would definitely say persistence and my faith along the way.
Oh, fantastic. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
So can you share a success story, whether it's an individual or whether it's an organization, of how they, working with you, how they've achieved success?
Yeah, I've had, a couple come to mind when I think about that. One was a college student, baseball player, was pretty much on the verge of quitting the sport
Oh,
when he
no.
came to me, had played all his life and was just facing a lot of challenges. And we worked together for about 6 months. And the other part of this is commitment. You have to be committed to the process. Otherwise, it's not effective. And he had that commitment, and he was consistent, and he had amazing results. After about a good 6 months, he was able to basically, he was in a good position. He got accepted to a D1 school and kept playing the sport. And following up with him, he's like, I'm teaching. He was basically like a leader on the team, teaching all the other players everything that he learned in, our work together. And I was like, that's awesome. That is exactly what, like, I love to hear the fact that, like, that's what I want for these people that I work with, is like, I don't want to always be there holding your hand. At the end of the day, I want you to be able to do it independently. And then the fact that he was helping others with it, I was like, that's the overall, you're like the golden child for results here. So that was exactly what I wanted. So he's probably one of my biggest success stories. I've had others that, radical changes in 3 to 4 months. And it's just really cool to see that transformation and them, reaching that overall health and well-being, and realizing the potential that they have, and they can do that.
Yeah. Everybody looks in the mirror. There's that meme that's out there, that there's a lion looking in the mirror and they see the little kitten, essentially. They don't really see what they have. And I'm sure that through the performance, you bring that out in people. So that raises the question, like, even with that individual or the organizations that you work with, how do you get them to understand what some realistic expectations and timelines are for working with you?
Yeah. Well, what I've seen and what I've found with a lot of, individuals is, typically you'll feel a difference, within, 4 to 5 sessions. Usually you'll start to see the changes. And it's kind of like that, like in dieting, right? Like, you don't just stop. Like, that's when you have to keep going and you have to build that consistency. So 4 to 6 months is usually what I say, as far as, okay, you've started to make the changes, but we need to sustain it. And so like with your brain and the way that your brain is wired, it's just like a muscle. You have to do those reps to build that muscle and really get that consistent effort and energy into it, that it makes those sustainable changes. So an individual, 4 to 6 months, an organization, consistent, maybe quarterly sessions and things like that, where it's going to be consistent to where they can start to hear it, go out there and practice it, and then give you the feedback as far as, oh, is this working or not working? What do we need to change? Because it really is, it's like an art and a science, and everyone's going to be different. And you really have to figure out where are we, breaking down, and what can we do to improve that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It comes back to the commitment factor that you talk about.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a change. Are they willing to commit to make the change?
Yeah.
Do we want to be different today, or do we want to be different tomorrow or a year from now? And today and tomorrow is a short window. A year from now is a big change.
Yeah. And really, anytime you're making a change too, it's scary. It's a scary thing. Some people they get into it, and then it's kind of like, oh, whoa, what was that? What's happening? So it's pushing through that and past that to be like, it's gonna get better, and it's gonna be better. Like, you just have to kind of trust the process.
Yeah, love it. So, Dr. Ross, what's the vision in your business over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so my vision is really, I really want to grow it to be more consulting on that broader scale. So more workshops, more organizations. And eventually, right now, I'm kind of the centerpiece. Eventually, I want to have others on board that can do the same thing. And, contract with different organizations to bring in performance coaching for them.
Love it. So as a performance coach, somebody that deals with mindset, you have to be confident in yourself and what you do. So you're a differentiator. You've got a visionary component that's about you. What do you feel that you do better than anybody else in that, peak consulting coaching industry?
Yeah. Well, my own personal experience with it, I think makes it even more powerful, is that I've kind of lived it out and lived it and walked it out myself, having gone through a lot of different challenges in my life, career, professionally and personally, to where I've practiced a lot of the things a lot of the tools I'm helping clients with, and I firmly believe in their effectiveness. And so I kind of bring that to the table as far as like, I'm here to guide you through that. But also I have, the experience to know like it is going to help you, and it's going to help you be better. And I've been where they're at, and I know, and it's kind of that empathy and being able to know like,
Mhm.
hey, it's going to get better for them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, love it. So we spoke early before we started this. You are currently in the process of writing a book about this. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about the book you're writing?
Yeah, so I'm about 2/3 the way through, and it's on the topic of perfectionism
Mm,
and being able to find balance and freedom in that in that arena of perfectionism and that kind of relationship that high performers have with perfectionism.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, once it's out there, let me know. I'd like to
Okay.
read it because I'm sure I can learn a ton from it.
Yeah.
So, if there are organizations that are looking to get some peak performance assistance, what kinds of workshops is it that you can create or curate for them?
Yeah. So usually that starts with a meeting to hear if there's any specific areas, that are maybe that they're noticing, or themes or trends that they might be encountering. And then it's tailoring it to those challenges. So, for example, I had one where it was on stress management, focus, and resiliency. And why we did that was because of the specific challenges of stress in that environment. They were facing a lot of personal stressors, but also more of the, um, I would say, environmental stress as far as political climate and whatnot. And so,
Okay.
so we tailored it to that. So it's usually kind of a consultation as far as like me asking some questions and gaining understanding as to what is the challenges that they're facing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So as we kind of wrap this up, I'm going to share all of your contact information in the show notes. People will be able to get a hold of you and how they would like to approach that. But how would you suggest, if somebody's interested in one-on-one? I know you want to go into the group, and that's okay. But where would you suggest people to go to learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, so they can visit my website, renewperformance.org,
Okay.
or just send me an email directly, coach@renewperformance.org. And I can, set up I do complimentary consultations, and it's, 30 minutes, and we get to know each other and figure out if it's a good fit and I can help them. And then go from there.
Okay. I'm going to jump and ask a different
Yeah.
question. How does someone's overall health, meaning mind, which you work on with them, body, physical, gut, how healthy they are from what they eat? Like, do you notice that if somebody's in better physical health, it's easier to attain better mental health?
Well, I think the two are tied, right? I think they're directly correlated to each other. And that's another fact about me, is I do a lot of integrative work, to
Oh,
where it's like understanding each component: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, because
hmm,
they can't, they all have to be balanced. One can't be out of whack and expect health in an overall sense.
yeah,
So yeah, so I do notice, if your mental health is poor, it's looking at, and now we know, science tells us like your gut health is directly related to your mental health.
yeah.
So maybe it's looking at nutrition and what are you doing to support your body through that. And that's part of that performance, is you have to have the nutrition and the sleep and all the other areas that can support that um, mental wellness as a whole.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
This popped in my head like that's an interesting question. I thought of
Yeah.
how that works. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
So last question here is, you are on the Prime Health podcast. Prime Health, the definition of it means different for everybody. For me, it's kind of optimal physical and mental well-being.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what does Prime Health mean for you?
Prime health is, the embodiment of all of those components, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, emotional, just being in balance and feeling that sense of balance, which translates out into, I think, your relationships and your profession and everywhere else. So that's what I would say prime health is.
Love it. It's different for everybody and it's
Yeah.
unique for themselves. So I appreciate that. So Dr. Ross, thank you for taking time out of your day here to be with us and share your insights. As I said again, thank you for your service in the military for myself, my family, and everybody that's out there. And I always say, like, you and I want this content shared because we want more people to learn about us a little bit because we can help them. But if you're having coffee and you hear somebody that's maybe struggling from a mental health perspective, or if you're in an organization that can utilize making your teammates better and stronger, share this with them so they can hear how Dr. Ross approaches the way she handles her clients and organizations and can help them. So the more we get this to spread and be shared, the more people will be better and the more they will be able to reach their prime health as we say that. So of course, for me, if you're watching this and you'd like to subscribe, we'd love to have more subscribers for our show as well. So as we wrap this up, I do want to say, until next time, remember that true wellness is a journey we are all on together. Whether you're taking charge of your own health or guiding others in theirs, every step forward matters. So stay committed to your prime health journey. And Dr. Ross, again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.